Today, we're going to talk about how to create a quiz in Moodle. Moodle quizzes have two major components, the quiz body and the question pools. Think of the quiz bodies as containers for various types of questions from the question pools. The body is what students see when they take the assessment. It also defines how the students interact with the quiz. The questions in a quiz body can be of any type, chosen manually or at random, and displayed in a set or random order. The question pools can contain questions arranged in a manner that makes sense to you. You can create question pools based on chapters in the textbook, weeks in the semester, important concepts, or any other organizational scheme. Pools can be reused in multiple quizzes, shared between classes and courses, and even moved between systems. Creating the quiz body. When you create the quiz body, you are creating a container for the questions and setting the rules for interacting with the quiz. To create a quiz body, click Turn Editing On. Select Quiz from the Add an Activity drop-down menu in the course section where you would like to add the quiz. In the Adding a New Quiz page, give the quiz a descriptive name. Write an introduction for the quiz. Be sure to include any special instructions for taking the quiz, such as the number of attempts allowed or scoring rules. Select the timing options. Here you will choose opening and closing dates for the quiz. You will also need to set the time limit. Determine how long students have to complete the quiz. At the end of the allotted time, the quiz is automatically submitted with the current answers. You can choose a time delay between attempts. You can force a delay between multiple attempts of a quiz in order to prevent students from gaming the system by immediately answering the same questions. Now you will select the display options. Questions per page. This sets the number of questions the students will see at once. If you have more questions than the number of questions per page, the students will see a navigation button at the bottom of the page where they can view the questions on other pages. Shuffle questions. Set this to Yes to randomly order the quiz questions when they are displayed to the students. Shuffle within questions. Set this to Yes to randomly order the parts making up individual multiple choice or matching questions. One note of caution here. If you have answers that are all of the above, it's not a good idea to shuffle within questions. Select the Attempts options. Attempts allowed. Use this option to set the number of times a student can take a quiz. You can set it to unlimited times or to a number from 1 to 6. Each attempt builds on the last. If you allow multiple attempts, you can choose to let students build their answers over time. If you set this to Yes, the student's responses from the last attempt will be visible the next time she tries to take the quiz. Adaptive mode. In adaptive mode, an additional Submit button is shown for each question. If the student presses this button, then the response to that particular question is submitted to be scored, and the mark achieved is displayed to the student. The quiz will then allow the student to try again immediately, but a penalty will be applied to the score. The penalty is set in the Apply Penalties option. Select the Grade options. Grading method. If you allow multiple attempts, you can choose which score is recorded. Your choices are highest grade, average grade, first attempt, and last attempt. Apply penalties. This only applies if the quiz is run in adaptive mode. Decimal digits in grades. Use this to set the number of decimal places in the grade for the quiz. In the Review Options section, you control what information students will be shown when they review their past attempts at the quiz and during the attempt in adaptive mode. It is a matrix with checkboxes. The various pieces of information that can be controlled are responses, what the student entered in response to each question, answers, the correct answer to each question, feedback, the pieces of feedback that are specific to the student's response to each question. General feedback, the general feedback for the question, which does not depend on the student's response. Scores, numerical information about the score the student received on each question. Overall feedback, the overall feedback for the whole attempt, which is set up further down the settings form. For each of the above items, you can determine the time frame when the student will see them. Immediately after the attempt means within 2 minutes of the student clicking Submit All and Finish. Later, while the quiz is still open, means after 2 minutes, but before the close date. If the quiz does not have a close date, this phase never ends. After the quiz is closed means what it says. You never get here for quizzes without a close date. Here's a tip. Checking any of the boxes in the time frame row will reveal the test to the student. For example, to allow students to see their quiz immediately after taking it, but not later, make sure none of the boxes in Later or After rows are checked. The student will be able to see their grade, but not get into the quiz. Next, you'll select the security options. Show quiz in a secure window. Selecting this option will open the quiz in a new window without the forward and back buttons, address bar, or other navigational features. This will prevent students from navigating to other sites during the quiz. Require password. You can set a password for the quiz that students will need to enter before they can take the quiz. You can use this to restrict who takes a quiz and when they take it. Require network address. This option restricts access to the test to certain IP address ranges. If you want to require students to take a test from a certain lab on campus, set the network address range to cover the networks in the lab. Finally, you'll select the common module options. Group mode. This is another location in which to set the group mode for the activity. If group mode is forced in the course settings, then this setting will be ignored. Visible. This determines whether students may view the activity or not. Add overall feedback. For example, text that is shown to a student after he has completed an attempt at the quiz. The text varies depending upon the quiz grade. Click the Save Changes button. Once you have saved your changes, you'll see the second editing screen where you will write and select questions to include in the quiz body. This will be covered in the next tutorial.